All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Are there any public comments from closed session? For closed session, seeing none, we will adjourn to closed session. This meeting to order. There is nothing to report out of closed session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First, I'm gonna let's see. I'm gonna move some agenda items. First, we say everybody is here except for Melissa, who is absent this evening. Notice to the public: if you would like to speak on an agenda item, there will be a time for you to do that. Please let us know by raising your virtual hand at that time. Recognition of, let's see, I'm gonna do recognition of guests and presentations. Let's do that first, and then we'll move the agenda items, I think, during the.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna invite Kim Parrott to take the microphone here from us. She's gonna talk a little bit about a nice number of our members of the Dixon Unified Community who are being recognized through the Community Advisory Committee through our SELPA. So Kim, it's all yours.
Hi, good evening. I think it's a very positive note to kick our night off together with. The Solano County SELPA Community Advisory Committee every year takes nominations for people that have gone above and beyond in servicing and supporting our students with special needs, people from within the school district, from within the community, or from any of the agencies with which we work. And I'm very proud to say that Dixon had quite a few honorees this year. And I think I saw them all here this evening. It's the first time I've ever presented virtually, so this will be an experience for all of us. First, I have a certificate of appreciation for Miss Summer Sanchez. Summer is our department chair at John Knight Middle School, and she keeps everything running smoothly. Summer, are you here to wave to us virtually? Okay, so Summer must not have been able to join us tonight. She does a very, very good job. Her nomination, the person that nominated her talked about how she goes above and beyond and takes that extra mile to get to know her families, her students, and provide that extra support for all of her staff, and is always someone anyone can turn to. So Summer, thank you very much for all that you do. And maybe if she joins us here in a few moments, we'll get a chance to say hello. The next nominee and an earner of appreciation is a group. And this is a very positive group that I have the privilege to act as their administrator. And this group definitely went above and beyond this year, creating a website complete with digital lessons for parents to access, creating activity bags to go home to these children so they can participate in the lessons. And so I would like to introduce you to our Sylvieville preschool team, the best kept secret of Dixon, because they are fabulous. Sabrina, I know I saw you here. I have an award for you.
I am.
You could step up and introduce your team, please, Sabrina.
Okay, I have quite a few people on my team. They did an amazing job this year. Everybody just completely came in hit the ground running. I couldn't ask for a better team. We have Blanca Tejeda and Gabby Magallon. They're our teachers. And then we have our support staff, which are basically our other teachers, which is Holly Aguilar, Gina White. I also have, hi Norma. I also have, I can't see anybody else with me and I'm actually forgetting all their names. They're gonna kill me, but I just wanna thank everybody that's worked at preschool this year. I know we've had some turnaround and everyone's just been super awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Kim, you're on mute.
We have a new member that's joined our preschool team, Vianney, but earlier in the year we had Mario. Everyone has contributed to success of this team. If you get a chance, believe me, Sabrina and her team are very happy to show off their wonderful website to you. So congratulations, and guys, thank you so much for the fantastic job that you did this year for our preschoolers virtually. above and beyond what needed to be done. Our next 3 awards, actually, I'm not surprised, came from the same classroom at Tremont Elementary School. This is another example of a team that just does anything and everything that they can to meet the needs of their students, to communicate with parents, and to support their students any way that they can. And first, I'm going to start out with the teacher of this lovely group, Miss Julie McAllister. Julie, are you with us this evening?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi, Julie.
Hi.
This is Julie McAllister. Julie, there are 2 other wonderful people on your team. I guess your left and your right hand. So
Yes.
you tell us who those lovely ladies are, because I have awards for them too.
Maya McNeil and Melissa Salazar. And my classroom would not run without those ladies. They
And-
are absolutely amazing.
And she's not kidding. To watch that group work together, it's like a fine oiled machine. Everything just comes together. Sometimes I think they can complete one another's sentences. So Julie, there's Julie. And Maya, are you here this evening? Oh, no, Maya?
She's maybe.
Hi.
And Maya keeps me on my toes. Right, Maya? And then where's Melissa? Where's your partner in crime there? Melissa, are you with us tonight? Hi, Melissa. You guys, thank you for everything that you do for our students at Tremont Elementary. Again, just a fantastic example of teamwork, your passion for your students, your special education, and the job you do just always shows. And it's always so evident every time I have the pleasure of visiting your classroom. So thank you very much. And I have these lovely awards that I get to come by and give to you. Wish I could do it in person. Thanks a lot, guys. And our next individual that earned a certificate of appreciation from the Community Advisory Committee is actually from Gretchen Higgins. And I have to say that this resource specialist, Miss Lori Morales, she, wow, I've never seen her slow down, and you can see her at any given time of the day, and she has things just going. She's supporting her students, she's supporting the teachers, and it wouldn't be a normal week. A person, the nominator said, if she were not emailing her families and her colleagues at 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So Lori, you definitely put in that extra time, and it really shows with all the gains that your students make and the innovative nature and engaging lessons that you provide for them. Lori, are you with us tonight? Because I have a lovely certificate for you. Get a chance.
Thank you.
Higgins, there she is. There's Lori. Lori keeps that place running. Hi, Lori. Can you say a little bit to us about some of the things you did this year for distance learning?
I just would really like to thank Norma and Lynn, my aides, because without them, I couldn't do it. I'd like to thank Ms. Mack for her awesome support, Miss Iman, Miss Norma in the office too. And it's an honor to work with the parents and the students. I'd like to thank the parents that I work with, because they just do an awesome job of keeping their kids involved and engaged during this hard time. And without you, I could not do it. So I wanted to just thank everybody in the Gretchen Higgins family. Thank you.
And Lori is right. Gretchen Higgins, definitely a family out there. When you go and visit, you just feel the warmth and the love, for sure. And actually, this next certificate that I have of appreciation is for Miss Norma Hutchins. It's one of your paraprofessionals. And her nomination indicates that she, again, is someone that just loves working with kids, goes above and beyond. She reviews new math strategies so that she can make sure that she's presenting the lessons to the students in an exciting manner. She seeks out materials, information. She just wants to make sure she is doing her best at all times. Norma, are you with us tonight?
Hey, Norma.
Yeah.
Norma, you're muted, hon.
No,
Thank
I said
Our
hi.
next award.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Hi,
Hello.
And Norma, definitely Norma really helps out where she can. So she's so flexible. She even got to go over and work with our preschool team a brief time this year.
Mhm.
So Norma, how was it doing distance learning? New experience?
Yes, but we did it.
Did it and did a
Yes.
fabulous job. Thank you, Norma. Have a wonderful certificate for you. And just know that we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you.
Our next certificate actually is for someone that is with one of the service providers that we use from Michael's Transportation, and that's Mr. Miguel Leon. Without Miguel, I could not keep transportation running. We knew we were coming back to school, and with just a matter of a week, he had everybody on a route. He was taking my calls regardless of the time of the day or night. Miguel, are you here? Thank you so much. We could not do this without you every day.
I'm here. Yeah.
Oh,
Thank
Miguel.
Thank you very much.
And there's Michelle. Michelle is from Michael's also. I'm glad that they're here tonight to see you get this award. Just goes above and beyond every single day, not just when we brought the kids back to school. All the kids love him. Everybody knows him. So Miguel, thank you so much for everything we do. We really appreciate it here at Dixon Unified.
Thank you so much.
Great job, Miguel. We're so proud of you at Michael's.
Great
Thank
job.
you.
Okay, our last certificate recipient could not be with us tonight. But this is a name that I know everybody knows, and that is Erica Hurtado. Erica tirelessly works with Team Dixon and always keeps things positive for our kids and keeps things running. And Erica was one of the first people I had the privilege to meet in our community. And we just want to thank her again. She's I wish she was here to get this award, but if you have not looked up the website on Team Dixon, I encourage you to do so. So thank you, Erica. And those are all of our award recipients this evening from the SELPA Community Advisory Awards for this year. And thank you, everybody, for everything that you've done this year.
Great, thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Ken. Appreciate it.
Great, and thanks all of you for your work.
Great work.
That's great. Okay, correspondence.
Correspondence this evening, yes, we have our letter from Solomon County Superintendent of Schools, Lisa Estrella Henderson, on the county office review of the 2020-21 second interim report. So this letter confirms that our self-certification of qualified is the same determination that the county office made after its review. And what that means is that we have, I'll read it straight from the letter. So the district may not meet its financial obligations for the current fiscal year or 2 subsequent fiscal years. And the issue with us actually is that third year, 22-23. So the letter points out that the board did make efforts to address the structural deficit by adopting 2 resolutions earlier this year on March 4th. We have a budget stabilization plan in place to make sure that the fiscal health of the district is kept at the level which it should be. We have determined to make $1.3 million in ongoing budget solutions in the 22-23 school year. They make a note of our continued declining enrollment as being one of the causes of fiscal concerns. We point out a reporting issue that we've had with CalPERS retirement that we're in the process of addressing. And final note they make is with regards to structure in our business office and support for the chief business official, part of which we are addressing with work on a new job description for a position to function in that office. So we want to thank Monique Stovall and the business team for their work on this second interim report. As we say, it does constitute a qualified certification. We are looking very forward to receiving a positive certification in the fall with our first interim, both based on the continued work we're doing to address our fiscal health, but also with the new levels of increased funding that we're going to see both as a result of COVID and the California state budget adoption. So I take any questions that anyone has.
Are there any questions? All right, thank you for that. And now we're going to, before we approve the consent agenda, I want to move a couple of items on our agenda, which is B on this consent agenda. I'm going to move items for tonight. So number A1 is now going to become A3. A2 is now going to become A1, and we're going to move D2, and that will become A2. So with those changes to our agenda this evening, I'd like to see a motion on the consent agenda.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. PJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Luke?
Aye.
And I as well. That motion passes. The consent agenda is approved. There were no items pulled from consent. And so we'll move on to stakeholder communications. Luke, go ahead.
All right, so hello everyone. The end of the school year is coming up quickly. DHS has successfully put on a college decision day parade along with an awesome outdoor scholarship night for our seniors. And there's still a couple of celebrations to go before the end of the year. DHS leadership and administration is working hard while planning an amazing year next year with more events and community building activities than ever before. Congratulations to all of our wonderful students, parents, and teachers all across the district that have persevered through this extremely challenging year. Keep up the hard work, and thank you.
Thanks, Lucas.
Thank you. Okay, do we have a Citizens Oversight Committee report this evening? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to Employee Association reports. And seeing no Employee Association reports, we'll move on to Parent Association reports. Are there any of those this evening? Michelle, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. I'm reporting for the Tremont Parent Association. I wanted to give a plug for our upcoming fundraiser on Saturday, June 5th from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the Chipotle in Davis. So if you would like to support Tremont and not cook dinner that night, we welcome you to order some Chipotle, put it on your calendar. It's in a couple weeks, but for Tremont families, you'll be getting the information on Dojo as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. All right, moving on to public comment. If you would like to introduce a topic within the subject matter jurisdiction of the district and not on the agenda, this is your opportunity. Michelle, did you raise your hand again for this item? Or is that?
Oh, I did. Sorry, I'll put it down.
So to make sure, is there anybody who would like to make a public comment this evening on an item not on our agenda? All right, seeing none. We will move on to information, action discussion on the approval of agreement for search and recruitment services with School Services of California.
Great, thank you, Kathleen. And I'm going to invite Kathleen Spencer, who is Vice President of School Services of California, to join us this evening. This service agreement with School Services is to support us in the recruitment and selection process for a chief business official to replace Monique Stovall, who is moving on to another district here next month. So for those who are not familiar with School Services, it is the preeminent school business finance advisory group, advocacy group for school districts across California. Just today, they held a governor's budget workshop with who knows how many thousands of people in attendance, but they gave us the full lowdown on the governor's budget proposal and what we can expect moving forward. One of the vital services they provide in the state is to assist districts in recruitment processes for a variety of positions, but most notably chief business officials. So we're in a position in Dixon of having experiencing frequent turnover in our CBO position. So felt it would be wise for us to employ school services to conduct a search for us and assist us in that recruitment process, especially. So I've invited Kathleen and really appreciate her being able to join us tonight into the meeting, just to talk a little bit about what's involved in the search process and a little bit about our outlooks here in Dixon Unified with regards to recruitment. So Kathleen, take it away. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And board president, members of the board, members of the public, district staff, thank you for having me tonight. So I was asked to speak a little bit about our search services to provide a little more context information about the service we provide. And Superintendent Dolan introduced that nicely. We have a full executive search service for chief business officials. And so in that service, our firm will coordinate and lead the entire search process from the initial advertising to coordination of interviews and the pre-employment verification process, which includes contacting professional affiliations or references of each of the candidates. And we conduct a very robust recruitment. So our search advisors, which I am one, and our other management staff, they identify and recruit candidates personally. And part of the advantage that our firm has is that essentially every school district in the state is our client, and we as search advisors, but our other management staff as well, are out in the districts, well, virtually now, but prior to COVID, we were out physically, and we really get to know the CBO community, and we can identify candidates for searches based on what we know about their skills, abilities, and what a district is looking for. And so I think that's one of the really beneficial and important services that we provide, is that connection to the business community out in school agencies in California that we recruit from. In addition to that, we send out multiple advertisements to our client base. It reaches almost all of the local educational agencies in the state, so from school districts, charter schools to county offices of education. We also post on the CASBO online job postings with the advertisement for school district positions and acts as EdCal publication. And so because of this very broad, wide net that we cast, we are able to successfully place highly qualified candidates in these positions because of our process and our efforts. And I'm happy to answer any other questions about our search process. You know, as we look at the current search environment, I will share that this is an unprecedented year. Currently, to date, in May, we have completed more executive searches for chief business officials in this time period, just these 5 months, than we do in a normal calendar year. So the amount of turnover that we're seeing in CBO positions, again, is unprecedented. It's not something that we've seen before. And because of that, this is just a very saturated market with CBO openings across California. And really, in order for us to recruit for open positions and attract qualified candidates, it's more important than ever that the salary range is competitive, so that you're able to attract candidates from their current positions. Our pool of candidates is shrinking a little bit as we are filling all of these vacancies, so it needs to be a salary that's appropriate, but also competitive for the position. And there's just a very high competition for qualified candidates at all levels, frankly, from directors of fiscal services through chief business officials. And Superintendent Dolan, would you like me to speak a little bit to some of the data that I was able to analyze about nearby salaries, which influence the ability of your district to be able to recruit for positions?
Sure, I think that would be good, Kathleen.
Okay. Okay, sure. And so one of the things that we do when we start a search is we'll take a look at our client's salary range for the position and identify how that compares to other recruitments for similar districts in the regional area that are of similar enrollment size, because we really need to get a sense for the competitiveness of the position, because the last thing we want to do is enter into a search that we know will not be successful because the salary may not be competitive enough to attract a qualified candidate. Because in our experience, the longer a search is open without successfully filling the position, it becomes more difficult with time to fill. And so as I looked at the salary data that we compiled from a number of sources, so CASBO job postings, we track that just as part of a service we do in our company, and other positions that we have recently filled in school services, we found a large group, but we narrowed it to 5 districts that were regionally proximate to Dixon. And we found that 2 things really. We found that your salary range is shorter or more compact than many of the other districts in that smaller comparative group of 5 districts. And as well as being a shorter salary range, it's also significantly lower than the average salary for these CBO positions. And so at the beginning salary, we found that it was approximately 20% lower than the average CBO salary. And then it was about 24% lower at the top end of the schedule. And so the other piece that we found as we dug a little deeper is that unfortunately, the district's current salary range is also lower than nearby fiscal director salary ranges. And so this really makes recruiting, a candidate that would otherwise make a promotional move into a CBO position, a fiscal director who's prepared and ready for that next step, it's more difficult, right? Because in a sense, it would be a lateral move in terms of pay, but responsibility would go up. And so in our experience, doing this for over 30 years, we think that these factors will really prove to be difficult to overcome in filling the district's CBO vacancy and being able to really retain a qualified candidate in the role, because it's really 2-part, right? It's about recruiting and attracting qualified candidates, but it's about having that retention of that candidate once that role's been filled in the position. And so based upon that, we would recommend adjustment to the CBO salary range to be able to recruit those positions or those candidates that are more qualified for your position. So Superintendent Dolan, do you have any questions for me or anything else that I can cover, or if you have questions from your board, I'm happy to answer that.
I'm going to invite the board if they have any questions or comments.
I'll open it to board members first for questions or comments on what we've just heard and on this item in general.
I noticed that you were talking about California. Do you throw your net into adjoining states?
We do. So we don't purposefully do that, but we often find that we have CBO candidates who are looking to move back, either back to California if they were here before. We have a number of those in our searches from time to time, but also individuals who are just looking to move into the state. They frequently are checking the CASBO listing and our postings if they're aware of our company. We operate primarily in California. And so there are instances where we have out-of-state candidates, but we don't purposefully recruit out of state.
Other board questions? I have a question just regarding the information that you provided tonight on that salary, and I think this is to Brian as well, our other salaries. Is it something that School Services does that we could ask you to do sort of a salary survey for us to see if we need to make some adjustments in terms of our salary, not only for this position, but I'm guessing if we're out of sort of the norm in this one, we're probably out of the norm in others as well.
Right, absolutely. Yes, that is a service that our company does provide. In addition to executive search services, we are a consulting management services company. And so we do total compensation studies. And so you're right, though, it is a cascade effect, right? Because when there's an adjustment at one level, typically there's an adjustment at another. And especially as we look at the CBO position, which is part of your classified service, it's a management or senior management position, but it's part of your classified service. And so there's an interrelated aspect to the salaries. And so we very frequently conduct total compensation studies where we identify positions, we gather comparative data from other districts that would be located geographically proximate to yours, so those that would potentially comprise good commuting distance for your employees or potential candidates, and we analyze the positions in those comparative districts to yours to find comparables, and then we provide an analysis of how your job classifications that have been under review compare and make recommendations for adjusting compensation if it's necessary.
Okay, great. I think that's something we should really consider before we open up for this recruitment. I think if we're not in line with other salaries in the area, we need to know that. And at least go in eyes wide open. If we decide that we don't, we're not going to change in order to recruit more, to attract more, then we would know that. But I feel like we're putting the cart before the horse a little bit in terms of doing the search without having the survey. So I don't know how other board members feel about that.
I think we're going to have to move forward with a survey and determine what we need to do in terms to make these positions competitive with the surrounding areas. And so let's move forward.
Okay. Do you need formal action from us on this item, or
No,
is there, can we
I-
just sort of,
Yeah, I don't think I do, so.
if everybody is on board with doing that first?
Okay, so working with Kathleen and the rest of the terrific team at School Services, we'll touch base via email tomorrow at least, and kind of start the process of this comp study, checking out where we lie on the range of salaries, and benefits are part of this as well, quite honestly, compared to others. And so I'm going to ask you then that we don't take action on the search agreement tonight, that we'll bring back our next agreement will actually be for the comp study, whatever that may involve. I do think I hear, and I want to just reiterate the commitment that when we do go search, that we will use School Services to complete that process for us,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's.
That we very much want and need that assistance there. So Kathleen, if that's clear enough for you, on what our next steps will be, and if there are no board questions, we'll say, I've got my direction and off we'll go.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you to Kathleen for bringing this to us tonight and for letting us know really, you know, I mean, I feel like you could have gone ahead and done an unsuccessful survey, a search for us. And so I appreciate knowing ahead of time that we at least need to review the options rather than having gone through that whole process and then come back and then realize that didn't really work and then have to adjust and all of that. So thank you for being upfront about that and what we'd like to move forward, I think, with you when we're ready.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for inviting me here tonight, and I'll look forward to working with Superintendent Dolan on the study in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathleen, take care.
All
Thank you,
right.
everybody.
Yes, thank you. Moving on to item number 2, yeah.
I confuse you.
6A2, which now is Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant Plan.
Yes, and just to explain why we're moving things around here. So this is a plan that the board has to take action to approve prior to June 1. And a number of our follow-up items included this evening are based on this plan existing. So we just caught that just today. And so we're going to ask Mr. Germani to present this out of order as to what was on the original agenda. Mr. G.
Good evening, all. So tonight we present for your approval the Dixon Unified School District Plan for the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant. The plan is required as an addendum to the LCAP, which you'll be considering in the coming month. I want to just share a couple of quick notes, highlights here. First of all, the plan is created after a lot of stakeholder input. Those were the surveys that we sent out last month, conversations at LCAP Advisory, DLEC heard these. We also had our site leadership teams that were visited with principals, as well as ample management consultation. And then, of course, you know, the conversations that we've had all year long at board meetings, these count as stakeholder input. So really feel like we're coming to this plan with a lot of good information from what our community wants to see. The plan is intended, as I mentioned earlier, to be a complement to the LCAP. So you'll see many things in this plan either explicitly referred to or certainly echoed in the forthcoming LCAP. So keep an eye open for those things. And you may even recognize some things in here that we're expanding that are in prior LCAP. So we feel like these dollars really give us an opportunity to sort of boost some of the action and services that we've been doing elsewhere in our system. The plan addresses a number of key areas that are required by statute. In order, they are extending instructional learning time. That's what it sounds like. You know, we're in conversation with our bargaining units around that right now. But one thing for sure we'll be doing on that is expanding our summer school, as you've heard at our prior meeting. It also asks us to accelerate progress to close learning gaps. This is where we have the most resources in the plan. I won't go over those in detail unless folks would like us to, but this is a good chance for me to pause and mention that the LCAP asks us to consider how we are going to serve some targeted student groups, namely our English learners, our low-income students, and our homeless foster youth. The Expanded Learning Grant asks us to do the same thing. So this is a place where we can really, as I mentioned earlier, boost the programs that we have in place to serve those student groups that are in need. We also consider integrated supports to address barriers for learning. This is where we address things like mental health. This also is where we've placed the outreach coordinator that will be discussed later in the meeting by my colleague, Ms. Nguyen. We are supporting our credit deficient students with some more resources. That's what it sounds like as far as expanding our credit recovery, as well as increasing some counseling services. More to come on that here in the coming weeks. There's some additional academic services there. We are bringing on a new assessment system. That's where that's located. And last but not least, it's professional development for school staff, really on strategies to engage our students as they return to school and move forward here in the coming years to address the learning loss of the pandemic. I'll stop there.
All right, are there any board questions on that item? Is there any public comment on this item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on item A2.
I move to approve the expanded learning opportunities grant plan.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. DJ?
Aye.
Floyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. Motion passes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Giramonte. And I'm going to next item, just touch base on a few of the elements related to, well, one or two things real quickly for this year. Most, if I thought about this a little more, really Nick's item here on the expanded learning grant plan, opportunity plan is really the core of our planning for next year. Just wanted to give you updates on a couple little pieces. First off, we mentioned that several items tonight are tied into our planning for next year. So those are the job description approvals for what's a half-time position each at John Knight Middle School and Dixon High School. These are assistant principal roles responsible for expanded learning services. So this is the use of COVID funding to be able to make sure that we maintain the appropriate level of support for our students, families, and staff. If you recall, back in March, we had reduced the assistant principal position at John Knight Middle School by 50% and one of the two positions at Dixon High School by 50%. So this keeps us fully staffed. So with the approval of those two job descriptions and the approval of the coordinator of outreach, engagement, and innovation, we will be able to post the outreach coordinator position immediately with your approval of a job description. And the two individuals who serve in the assistant principal positions, who at this point in time are in 50% layoff status, technically speaking, we would be restoring them to full time. So in terms of that piece of staffing, that will turn around very quickly. We have 3 RTI positions that are being added. Those have actually already been posted. So those are out within the district for district teachers who have an interest in those to apply. With the action you just took here a moment ago, we are able to now post for the 3 additional mental health clinicians and get going on that. So we all know obviously how critical it is to have the right people and the jobs that we deem to be important. So those are the first most significant round. We also have an at-risk counselor position that we are finalizing the job description, excuse me, not at-risk, at-promise counselor job description that we are reviewing and hope to have for your approval next time out. That was a job Nick talked about of counseling for students in grades 6 through 10, specifically targeting students who have not been successful and need some additional monitoring and support. So that position and several others will be coming. But where we have job descriptions identified, developed, and now with your authorization on the overall expanded learning grant, then we're able to get going right away on getting those filled. So obviously a real critical component of things. Also want to just touch briefly on the financials. So we have, I think our last meeting, we showed you proposed allotments for the school sites in terms of their, basically what amounts to a COVID site block grant. So we did allocate those dollars to the sites as we presented that night. So the sites have been informed of that, and now if you remember the many things that were on that list of proposals, a lot of them were about school culture and climate types of activities. The sites are now, they know what has been allocated to them for next year, and they're able to go about working on their plans for how to use those dollars. So as I said in email to them, sharing that those dollar figures, like anything budget related and planning related, in the middle of May, things can change. So I think probably all sites would say they would have taken more money if it had been offered, or perhaps we weren't able to address every need that they felt was a priority. So I encourage them to keep conversation going with us, and if we miss something, we will go back and take a look at it. But also that as we work our way through next year and all the years of COVID funding, that we will be looking at fine tuning and making adjustments, and if something doesn't work, tossing it and replacing it or doing something different, whatever that may be. So Monique is busy developing that budget of ours, and these allocations are included in that process. Also wanted just a little glimpse, we are going to be in school 5 days a week or full days next year, period, case closed. I know everybody attending this meeting tonight already knows that. We're saying it over and over and over and over again. I just thought I'd share real quickly the percentages of students who are currently participating in person. It's I think really good news in the elementary school settings. All three of them over 70%. So right now at Anderson, 72% of students are attending in person. Tremont 77%, and at Gretchen Higgins 71% are coming to school in person. So, I will always maintain, as almost all of us do, best place for a kid to learn is in school. So it's nice to see that at the elementary setting, such a high percentage of students have returned. As is the case across the state, we have lower percentages returning and attending in person in the secondary level. John Knight Middle School is right at 59%. Main Prairie High School is at 62%, and Dixon High is at 45%. It's interesting that our freshman level of participation is 53%, and the seniors are just at 40%. So we did see more in that trend of more of the younger kids coming back. So we have, in general, I can't say with 100% certainty for all sites, but we have had more kids return as time has gone on. So our beginning percentage there in late March, April, we've actually built up on that from where we started. So that's a good thing. I think that people saw that we were comfortable and safe and confident and those types of things. And then the last piece I wanted to touch on just is the non-classroom based program option for next year that we are working on. I mentioned there when Kathleen was here from School Services, they had a presentation today on the state budget. A couple of the slides they presented were on distance learning in the 21-22 school year. And what's really clear is there's only two ways that you're going to be able to earn your apportionment, receive the compensation that we're entitled to for students, and that's full-time in-person instruction, or a program that's really modeled on the existing statutes with regards to independent study. The idea of distance learning as we've been doing it this year is gone, or hybrid is really gone, unless you have an existing, or you create or have an existing program that already includes that feature. So as we're continuing to work on this, we're here before the year ends, we want to make sure that we've got some real clear communication to our families that our option will be in existence, a general program description for them so they know the kind of program that they would be signing up for. And then something of a timeline about when we would provide them with a full range of information about it and the deadlines for them to select that kind of program. So conversations we've had around here, including with the board, or we need to let people know before they go off somewhere else and make some other plan. So we're actively working on that, and hopefully next week we'll be able to get that out to our families with more information than we've had now. We have very few families who join into these meetings, and the word on the street is my Friday updates aren't read with the same vim and vigor that they were when it was all about are we going to reopen or not. Still publish them. They're not as valuable. So we're going to need to make a real push out there. And one of the ways I think that is more effective with this type of thing is when they're coming from the school sites themselves. And we've got contact directly from the school about, we want you back, but there's going to be an alternative kind of program for you as well. So those are just some of the big things we're working on for next year. And I'll take any questions or any comments from you.
Board questions? Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So I've seen a lot of protocol changes coming from both the state and from higher above.
Great question.
How does
Yeah.
that translate to what we're going to do next year and when the parents figure out what's going to happen?
Yeah, that's a great question, Lucas. Thank you. I meant to make a mention of that actually. So we don't know.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
We're back to that. We don't know answer other than you're continuing to see the metrics. Certainly in California and really the country overall now continuing to improve. You've got, what I say, it's almost 2/3 of California adults have had at least one shot of the vaccine. More and more young people are getting it as well. So we're anticipating, given that, given what the CDC has had to say, given what Governor Newsom has had to say, that we will see restrictions relaxed enormously. What we don't have yet is anything from the California Department of Public Health, which is really who we are obligated to follow, right? So everything that we're currently doing with regards to school, with a little bit of exception for Cal OSHA with regards to our employees, is in compliance with the California Department of Public Health guidance. We don't even know exactly when we're going to see that come for schools. But we would anticipate having operations that look so much more like normal. Might we have masks? Perhaps. Are we going to be at 6 feet? I think no way. Will it be do as you wish? I'm not quite sure. So that will be a factor, certainly for families in making their choices, and also our planning throughout the summer. But I think the widespread expectation is that school is going to look like school to a very, very large degree. I think things that, hand washing and sanitizing and cleaning and things like that, I think will probably remain at heightened levels. But I think the distancing and, the plexiglass, I don't think we'll be seeing plexiglass on desks and things, other similar things. So we'll continue to monitor and provide that information as it becomes available, but we just don't really know too much yet.
Thank you. Other board questions?
Yeah. I understand that the independent study program will be different than distance learning, but distance learning was available for all grades, K through 12. So I can't wrap my head around what independent study would look like with elementary school kids. So is this going to be for parents to make a good decision? Are they going to know whether they can put their third grader in an independent study class?
Sure, and that's some of our obligations to provide some information. And I actually see it somewhat opposite, that this type of program is actually a better fit for younger age students than it is for older age students. I think it's the type of model that we're talking about at this point in time. It's a really, if a student intends to meet A through G requirements, really be qualified for any post-secondary training, this is not a good option, right? You're really talking about a model where you have adopted some form of an online curriculum that, to the greatest degree, that student is at home working with the support of the family that they have a designated time in each week to come in and meet with a teacher or teachers, and also online support and things of that nature. A couple things that are different, in the budget proposal is, because this didn't happen before with independent study, requirements that the district must provide access to technology, internet connectivity, and the rigorous curriculum. Develop and implement a framework of tiered re-engagement strategies for students who don't perform well in the independent program, and then a much more robust tracking and recording of student attendance and participation. So I think when you see some more details of it, you see that this, like I say, is a better fit for younger age students because it really is kind of a self-contained curricula, online curricula that is just much more easy to deliver than here's your 6 periods of a secondary program, right? And again, where A through G or other college, career readiness indicators are just very, very difficult to meet.
But I want to just clarify though, that if we're offering this program to kids in high school and secondary, we will have a program that kids who want to attend can, because it's done all over the state for kids of all ages, but I just want to make it clear that we will have a K through 12
Absolutely,
program.
sorry, yeah.
TK through 12 or K through 12?
Well, I think probably just, I don't think there's a TK curriculum.
I haven't seen the TK curriculum either,
I
yeah.
haven't seen one, if there is one.
No, yeah, thank you, Catlin. To reiterate, this would be an option for students of all grades, right? K through 12. It's imperative that we provide that, and we will. Just my own sense is elementary families are more inclined probably to take advantage of it.
Will they be able to change and go back to school if they decide?
Sure. Yeah.
Other board questions?
I was actually gonna say you must have read the same list I read, all the stuff that's part of the independent study program. So yeah, it's gonna be, more robust and more accountable and stuff like that. A better program than it has existed in other places as well. But I'll also let you know, I do read your credit letters.
Thank you very much.
And to be clear, what you referenced is a proposal by the governor that has not yet been vetted by the legislature. So we've got many steps before, and it could look completely different, but that is that's what's on the table right now.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right, I'm going to open for public comments. If there's any public comments on this informational item. And there does not appear to be. So thank you for that update. And we'll move on to Monique and B1.
Good evening, President O'Halloran, members of the board, Superintendent Dolan. This evening, my first item is the review of the third interim budget report. We are required to have a third interim budget report because we are certified, or our second interim budget was certified as qualified. This budget report is much smaller than all of our other budget reports. It has a very narrow focus in really looking at whether or not we will be able to meet our fiscal obligations for this fiscal year, whether or not each one of our funds will have a positive ending balance, and whether each of our funds will have a positive cash balance. In summary, all of our funds, we project that they will have a positive balance, and we project that there will be no issues with cash flow. What questions may I answer for you?
Members, your questions on this? All right, seeing none. I will open for public questions and comments on the third interim budget report. All right, seeing none. I think it's the short nature of this, and it's pretty cut and dry. Yeah. So now you need a motion from us to approve this. Is that correct? It says action on here?
Yes.
Okay.
Please.
All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the third interim budget report.
So moved to approve the third interim budget report.
And I've heard a motion. Is there a second?
Okay.
There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. That motion passes. Thank you, Monique. And your second item is the CARES Funds Expenditure Report.
Yes, we are required to report our usage and our balances for our CARES funds. These are what I call our first phase of CARES funds. These are the funds that we already have received, including our funds that we needed to expend this year and the first phase of our ESSER funds. We are on track to spend the funds that need to be expended by the end of this month and the funds to be expended by next year. I'm sorry, by the end of this fiscal year. As was presented earlier today, we are looking at a variety of ways to use the remaining funds. We do project that indeed we will use all of our CARES funds and we are not at risk of having to return any monies. Questions?
Are there board questions on this?
Hallelujah.
Yeah. I'm going to open for public questions or comments on this informational item. All right, seeing none, thank you very much for that report and for spending all of our money. I appreciate that. Yes. All right, we're going to move on to item C1, approval of a new job description for Dixon High Assistant Principal for Expanded Learning Services.
Yes, good evening, President O'Halloran, members of the board, Superintendent Dolan. A lot of this information was shared earlier on in tonight's board meeting, but this new job description for the high school AP for expanded learning is being created to address our students' needs due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and will be funded strictly out of COVID relief resources. Just to highlight some of the areas of the duties, which would be managing mental, social, and emotional supports, after school learning, proactively addressing credit deficiencies, and addressing learning gaps for next year. And while the full job description is on Granicus for anyone to review, this part-time position will allow the district to restore the high school assistant principal back to full-time, as Mr. Dolan mentioned earlier. So staff does recommend approving this item tonight.
Great. Board questions or comments on this item?
I would just, I like the additions for the roles for them to fill, as opposed to maybe what the normal assistant principal do. I think they all make a lot of good educational sense, and I think any parent or administrator or student, I think, would be happy to see the things that they're going to be doing.
Yeah, I agree.
Great, thank you. Are there any is there any public comment or questions on this item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on item C1, the approval of the new job description.
Move to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. That motion passes. Thank you, Cindy. And on to number 2, approval of a new job description for John Knight Middle School Assistant Principal of Expanded Learning Services.
Yes, thank you. So again, this job description is also being created due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic and will be funded strictly out of COVID relief resources. Some of the focus areas to highlight would be supports around English language learning, collecting and analyzing various data and assessments to address learning gaps, implement the site's cultural, climate, and positive behavior interventions and supports. Again, the full job description is available on Granicus, and this part-time position will allow the district to restore the middle school assistant principal back to full-time. So staff does recommend approving this item tonight.
Great, thank you, Cindy. Board questions, comments? All right, any public questions or comments on this item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on this item.
Move to approve the job description.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
I as well. Excellent. That motion passes, and we're on to number 3, approval of a new job description for Coordinator of Outreach, Engagement, and Innovation.
Yes, thank you. This last job description for tonight's board meeting is again also being created due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, and to also support the district's LCAP Goal 3, which is to engage families in the community to form active partnerships, which ensures the academic and social growth of our students. In addition, there's been a lot of support from our LCAP Advisory Committee, as well as the recent surveys and the family town halls that was held previously. And this position will also help us to improve our communication and marketing activities here in Dixon, as well as support our non-classroom based instructional program. Again, the full job description is available on Granicus for anyone to review. So staff does recommend approving this item tonight.
Great, thank you. Are there any board questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, are there any public questions or comments on this item? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for approval.
I move to approve the job description for the Coordinator of Outreach, Engagement, and Innovation.
Excellent. We have a motion. Second. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. That motion passes. Thank you, Cindy.
Thank you.
And we are on to D1, agreements for educational technology applications platforms for 2021-22.
Good evening again. So I just wanted to, typically we bring these type of contracts to the board and ask for them to be considered on consent. However, this evening we wanted to separate these out and really call attention to the great work that's been happening with our teaching staff with regard to learning new platforms and having kids engage with them. We're going to take that momentum that we have with regard to instructional technology and move it forward for the next number of years using the Expanded Learning Opportunities Grant dollars to make sure that teachers and students have access to these plans moving forward. I want to give a special call out to Jake Ritchell, our teacher on special assignment, who put together, frankly, most of these agreements and was our point person as far as supporting our staff, organizing professional development, really digging into the data to see, are people using these? How can we support them more? So thanks to Jake and to everyone else who really kept an open mind and a really great learning stance throughout the year to learn so much. I do anticipate that we will bring additional agreements to the board in the coming months. Some of those may be site specific, maybe a certain department at one of our secondary schools wants to use something, and others may be district wide. I plan to bring those to consent, but because we had such a large stack of these tonight, I wanted to make sure that we had a chance to discuss them if needed, but really just to recognize the great work that's going on with regard to instructional technology in the district. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, and you need approval for us on this particular agreement, correct?
There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 agreements. And actually the top 3, the Go Guardian, the first 3 are part of one agreement. It's just 3 services that are offered through our Go Guardian contracts. We wanted to tease those out, make sure you can see them. And then the others are individual agreements.
Excellent. All right, is there any board question or comment on this item?
I'll just say I've used several of these and they are all amazing.
Great.
Good use of money.
Yeah, I definitely support the use of technology moving forward now that we know the district can succeed while doing it.
Yeah, that's great. Good. Other comments from the board? All right, are there comments from the public on this item? Questions? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for the agreements for educational technology applications and platforms.
Move to approve the agreements for educational technology applications / platforms for the 21-22 school year.
Great. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Mr. Giramonte.
Thank you.
And we're moving on to E1, school site safety plans.
Good evening, board members, Superintendent Dolan. Tonight before you are the safety plans for the 2021 school year for your approval. The first 195 pages are for all the school sites, and they consist of board policy, administrative regulations, ed codes, and other state laws, along with forms needed that we use for any of our safety occurrences. The last pages are specific to each school district. I apologize, these should have been to you at the beginning of March, but they are before you to be approved tonight.
Great. Are there any board questions or comments on the 234 pages?
I was looking for page 94, and it wasn't there because I was interested in with the latest things about showing midriffs and exactly what our policy is around dress codes and
Dress code and grooming, 93 and 94. Looks like there's.
yeah, and it wasn't there because it started on page 200 and something instead, and there was no page 94 that I could find.
Oh, Jewel, it's at the top. The page numbers are at the top. The bottom does have a number, but I don't think it's that
That's
page.
the packet number. That's the number from the packet. So yes.
Well, I'll look at it again. I'm interested in that. And so.
Yeah, it's at the top left. So, which is arguably confusing because there's two numbers.
Two
on
sets of
there.
numbers
Yeah,
on
two
these.
sets.
Yeah.
And then when you're in Granite, this is the third number.
Oh, right, and then there's,
Just
yeah.
Yeah, well, I got mixed up on my numbers, but I'll just check it out.
Excellent. All right. Are there any other board questions, comments, commentary on the 234 pages? Okay, how about public comment, questions, thoughts? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion for approval of our school site safety plan. So, plans. Is there a motion?
I'll approve the safety plans.
All right, is there a second?
I second.
All right, there's a motion and a second. DJ,
Aye.
Lloyd,
Aye.
Jewel,
Aye.
Lucas,
Aye.
and I as well. That motion passes. Thank you, Mr. Monticello. And moving on to item F1, speech therapy consulting incorporated contract for 2021-22 school year. We're not.
Are you there, Kim?
I see her on that, but
All right.
Well, let me get back into that and I can speak to it. So I think most people are aware that the ability of school districts to recruit and employ speech therapists or speech language assistants in any of these positions is virtually impossible. So the speech.
Kim's back.
It's Kim back. All right, Kim, I'll let you take this.
You're on mute, Kim. There you go. Perfect.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay.
Got distracted. Yes, speech therapist, right now, the main place that we are able to get our speech therapists from happen to be non-public agencies. This is one of the non-public agencies that we have been contracting with for the last 3 years. The speech therapy is one of the services that have to be provided by and through the IEPs. And most of the therapists that we've had with us the last few years are returning. While we have maintained a posting for speech therapists, as all the surrounding districts do, the therapists, for whatever reason, are contracting with non-public agencies, and then the districts are having to contract with the non-public agencies to get the speech therapist in to then cover the services for the students. And they have to have that speech therapy credential in order to provide this service. The only thing that we do also do in order to make sure that services are being provided, but also keeping in the budget in mind, is we also have what are called speech language pathology assistants. And we did have 2 of those in this district this year. This particular contract, this particular company is the company that we got them from. And one of them is bilingual, which is very, very helpful, especially with our Anderson population, which is where this therapist is. So this particular contract covers the 2 speech and language pathology assistants, and I believe it's 3 speech and language pathologists for service next year. And we do have other companies that we also work with.
Great, thank you. Are there any board questions or comments regarding this item? Are there any public questions or comments regarding this item? All right, this is an action item, so I'll entertain a motion. Would anyone like to make a motion?
I move to approve this contract with, for the speech therapist.
All right, there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. DJ?
Aye.
Lloyd?
Aye.
Jewel?
Aye.
Lucas?
Aye.
And I as well. That motion passes. Thank you, Kim. And we are on to agenda items for future meetings. Are there any board members wishing to add an agenda item for a future meeting? No. All righty. Board announcements. Do any board members have board announcements?
So graduation coming up, something to look forward to.
2 graduations coming up, yes.
Right.
Excellent. All right, then our coming events are May 24th, Distinguished Scholar Night. And that's being held on the quad, right?
Out on the quad
On the
and
quad.
Wilson High campus, yes.
Yes, and I would encourage everyone to come. That's always a fun celebratory event, sort of kicking off our events. June 3rd, board meeting, June 9th, Main Prairie High School graduation, and June 12th, Dixon High School graduation. And with that, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, just indicate by saying aye. Aye. All right. Motion passes. We will adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much for coming.